My name is Dolores Wright, 31 years old. At Christmas dinner last year, my father stood up in front of 14 family members and said, Dolores was a failed result of contraception. Now she's a failure, just like when we tried not to create her. My mother laughed. So did my brother. I was born 2 months premature with club feet, partial hearing loss, and a list of medical complications my parents considered defects. At 6 months old, they contacted adoption agencies. I found the paperwork when I was 14. I've spent my life being the mistake they couldn't erase. But what they didn't know, what none of them knew, was that I'd been building something they could never take from me. And when 8.2 million people watched me accept an award on national television, my parents finally understood what I'd become. That's when everything flipped. I was 14 when I found out my parents tried to get rid of me. It was a Tuesday afternoon in 2008. My father, Dr. Thomas Wright, orthopedic surgeon, holder of every medical degree that mattered to him, had asked me to wait in his office while he finished with a patient. I was supposed to sit quietly. I didn't. The filing cabinet was open. I don't know why. Maybe someone forgot to lock it. Maybe it was meant to happen. I pulled the drawer labeled Family Pearl, Personal, and started flipping through folders. Tax returns, insurance documents, Victoria's college acceptance letters, Christopher's scholarship awards. Then I saw it. A manila folder with my name, just Dolores. No middle name, no last name. Like I wasn't fully formed yet. Inside was a medical chart from 1994. Patient age, 6 months. Parents present, Thomas Wright, MD, and Linda Wright, PhARMD. And then, in my father's handwriting, parents considering relinquishment due to financial/emotional burden of multiple congenital anomalies, referred to social services. The date was March 15, 1994, exactly 6 months after I was born. I took a photo with my phone. My hands shook so badly, I had to take 3 shots before one came out clear. I heard footsteps in the hallway. I shoved the folder back, closed the drawer, sat down in the chair. My father walked in 30 seconds later. He asked if I was ready to go. I said yes. We drove home in silence. I never told him what I'd found, but I kept that photo. I still have it. By the time I was 18, I understood how love worked in my family. It had terms and conditions. It came with a price tag based on genetic value. In 2012, my sister Victoria got pregnant with her first child. The whole family celebrated like she'd cured cancer. She was 28, married to Preston Brennan, venture capitalist, good jawline, better portfolio. They'd done IVF, pre-implantation genetic testing, the works. My mother couldn't stop talking about it. Finally, she said one night at dinner, a baby we can plan for properly, not like... She looked at me, didn't finish the sentence, didn't need to. The IVF bill was $28,000. I know because my father left it on the kitchen counter one afternoon. Paid in full. Cash. I was folding laundry nearby. He didn't notice me standing there. 6 months later, I needed a new hearing aid. My left ear, the one that barely worked since birth, had gotten worse. The audiologist said I needed a digital model. $3,600. I asked my parents if they could help. My mother said, Dolores, you're 18 now. You need to learn responsibility. Save up. I worked 2 jobs that summer, saved $3,600 by October, bought the hearing aid myself. Victoria's second IVF cycle cost $31,000. My parents paid that one too. In 2019, I was 25 years old. I'd graduated with a degree in speech therapy. I had a job. I had an apartment. I had a life that functioned, even if my family barely acknowledged it. Every December, my parents sent out a family Christmas card. Glossy cardstock, professional photos, the kind people put on their refrigerators. I'd never been in one. That year, I decided to ask. I sent my mother an email on November 10th. Hi, Mom. Can I be in this year's photo? I'd love to be part of the family card for once. She replied 6 days later. We've already done the shoot. Maybe next year. The cards arrived in mid-December. My neighbor got one. She showed it to me over coffee, thinking I'd want to see it. There was Victoria with Preston and their 2 kids. Christopher with his wife Amanda and their daughter. My parents in the center looking proud. Everyone smiling in matching cream sweaters against a neutral backdrop. The caption read, "Our beautiful family, 3 generations of excellence." I wasn't in the photo. I wasn't mentioned. I didn't exist. My neighbor asked why I wasn't included. I told her I'd been busy with work. She believed me. I went home and looked at that card for a long time. I didn't cry. I'd learned by then that crying didn't change anything. I just thought, one day, I'll build a family that actually wants me in the picture. I didn't know how, but I was going to find out. The first time I heard about Benjamin Torres, I was sitting in a church basement on a Thursday night in late 2019. I'd been attending a disability support group for 6 months, not because I needed help. I'd figured out how to live with my hearing loss and the limp from my club feet years ago. I went because I wanted to understand something. I wanted to know if other people had felt what I'd felt growing up. They had. That night, a woman named Janet stood up. She worked for the county foster system. She looked tired. "We have a boy," she said. 10 years old, Moebius syndrome, facial paralysis. He's been in 8 different foster homes in the last 5 years. Every family sends him back. They say he's too hard to look at. She pulled out a photo, passed it around the circle. When it reached me, I stared at it for a long time. Benjamin had dark hair and eyes that looked older than 10. His face was still. No expression. The syndrome meant his facial muscles didn't work the way they should. He couldn't smile, couldn't frown, couldn't show what he felt. I saw myself in him. Not the same condition, but the same look, the one that said, "I've learned not to expect anything from anyone." I raised my hand. "I want to meet him," I said. Janet looked at me carefully. "Foster parenting isn't for everyone, especially with medically complex kids. It's a lot of work, a lot of heartbreak." I nodded. "I know." She gave me the paperwork that night. The training took 6 months. 40 hours of coursework, background checks, home visits, financial reviews, psychological evaluations. I worked my regular job as a speech therapist during the day, took training classes 3 nights a week, spent weekends preparing. I bought a bed for the second bedroom, a dresser, shelves. I painted the walls blue because the intake coordinator said Benjamin liked blue. I filled the closet with clothes in his size, organized my speech therapy tools in labeled bins so he could use them if he wanted. I spent $1,850 from my savings. It was most of what I had. The final home visit was on March 7th, 2020. The social worker walked through my apartment, checked every room, asked questions about my support system. She asked for a family reference. I gave her Pastor William Brooks from the church. I didn't list my parents. The social worker didn't ask why. 3 hours later, she called. "You're approved." Benjamin was scheduled to move in the next day. He arrived at 2 p.m. with everything he owned in a black garbage bag. Janet brought him to the door. He stood behind her, not making eye contact. He was small for 10. His face was completely still. "Benjamin," Janet said gently, "this is Dolores. This is your new home." He looked at the floor. I knelt down so we were at the same height. "Hi, Benjamin. Your room is the blue one. Do you want to see it?" He nodded once. I showed him the bedroom. He set the garbage bag on the floor, looked around, didn't touch anything. "Which room is mine?" he asked. His voice was flat, practiced. "And when do I leave?" My chest tightened. "This one's yours," I said. "And you're not leaving. You're staying." He didn't respond, just stood there. Janet left an hour later. I made dinner. Spaghetti. Benjamin sat at the table and ate in silence. Didn't look up once. That night, I heard him crying in his room. Soft, muffled. The kind of crying you do when you don't want anyone to know. I didn't go in. I knew he needed space. On day 3, I made pancakes for breakfast. Benjamin came out of his room and sat at the table. I put a plate in front of him. He looked at me for the first time. "When are you sending me back?" he asked. I set the spatula down, looked him in the eye. "Never," I said. He stared at me. Testing. "I mean it," I said. "You're not going anywhere. This is home now." His face didn't move. Couldn't. But his eyes filled with tears. He cried for the first time in 2 years. I sat next to him and didn't say anything. Just let him cry. Later he whispered, "Okay." That was the moment I knew. I wasn't just fostering a kid. I was building a family. I called my mother 2 days after Benjamin moved in. I thought, maybe foolishly, that she'd understand. That she'd see I was doing something good. "Mom," I said, "I have some news. I became a foster parent. I have a 10-year-old boy living with me now." There was a long pause. "A foster child?" she said slowly. "Dolores, why would you do that?" "Because he needed someone," I said. "He's been rejected by 8 families. He has Moebius syndrome, facial paralysis. No one wanted him." Another pause. Longer this time. "A facially deformed child?" Her voice went sharp. "Dolores, you have your own issues. Why would you take on more defects?" I felt something crack inside me. Clean. Final. "He's not defective, Mom. He's a kid." "Don't bring him to family events," she said. "I mean it." The call lasted 4 minutes and 32 seconds. I remember because I looked at the clock when it ended. I sat on the couch for a long time after that. Benjamin was in his room doing homework. He didn't know what had just happened. I decided he never would. 2 nights later, my phone buzzed at 11:47 p.m. It was my mother. The message said, "You're choosing broken strangers over your own blood. Don't expect us at your funeral." I read it 3 times, took a screenshot, saved it to a folder on my phone I labeled Receipts. Then I typed back. Noted. The message showed as delivered. She never opened it. The next morning, I woke up and checked my phone. My father had blocked my number. I tried calling. It went straight to a generic voicemail. I wasn't surprised, just confirmed. "Cut us off too. I'm sorry." I stared at "cut us off too. I'm sorry." I stared at the message for a long time. Then I unfriended her on Facebook. Christopher didn't text, didn't call, just nothing. I sent him a message asking if we could talk. It showed as seen within 5 minutes. He never replied. I unfriended him too. That week, I deleted every family photo from my phone, unfollowed my parents on social media, removed their contact information from my emergency forms. Benjamin noticed. He was sitting at the kitchen table one evening, coloring. He looked up at me. "Why don't you have family photos?" he asked. I sat down next to him. "I do now," I said. "You're in them." He went back to coloring, but I saw something shift in his face. A kind of relaxation, like maybe he was starting to believe me. I lost a family that never claimed me, but I was building one that would. In August 2021, I got a call from Janet. "We have a girl," she said, 8 years old, club feet, scoliosis. She's been in the system since she was 4. Her birth parents surrendered her when the medical bills got too high. I felt something twist in my chest. Club feet, like me. "What's her name?" I asked. "Hannah Jones." I met her 3 days later. She was small, quiet. She walked with a limp, the same one I'd had before my corrective surgeries. She had brown hair in 2 braids and eyes that didn't trust anything. The social worker left us alone for a few minutes. "Hi, Hannah," I said. "I'm Dolores." She looked at my feet, then at hers. "You walk like me," she said. "I do," I said. "I was born with club feet too." Her eyes widened. "Did they fix yours?" "Mostly," I said. "It took a long time, a lot of doctors. But yeah, They fixed them. She nodded slowly. Are you going to send me back? My heart broke. No, I said. Never. She moved in a week later. For the first month, she barely spoke. She'd sit on the couch next to Benjamin and watch TV. They didn't talk much, but they sat together. That was enough. One night, about 6 weeks in, she came into the kitchen while I was doing dishes. Can I call you Mom? She asked. I turned around. My hands were covered in soap. If you want to, I said. My voice cracked. She nodded. I want to. 6 months after that, she asked if she could change her last name. We were sitting at the kitchen table. She had homework spread out in front of her. She looked up at me. Can I be Hannah Wright instead of Hannah Jones? I stopped breathing. You want my last name? I asked. The defective one? She frowned. It's not defective. It's mine now. The court date was August 15th, 2023. The judge approved it. Hannah cried when she signed the papers. So did I. She was officially Hannah Wright, my daughter. By 2024, there were 6 kids in my apartment. After Hannah came Elijah, 9 years old, Down syndrome, nonverbal until age 7. Then Sophia, 8, Treacher-Collins syndrome and hearing impaired in her left ear, just like me. Then Jacob, 7, cerebral palsy. I'd moved to a bigger place, 4 bedrooms, a house actually. I bought it with a loan I probably shouldn't have qualified for. The mortgage was $279,000. Monthly payments, $2,100. I worked full-time as a speech therapist. $52,000 a year. I tutored on weekends. Another $12,000. Total, $64,000. The medical costs for 6 kids with complex needs ran about $198,000 a year. Medicaid and nonprofit grants covered 66%. I paid the rest out of pocket, roughly $67,000 annually. The math didn't work. It never did, but we made it work. Then Janet called again in early 2024. I have twins, she said. 2 years old, both have spina bifida. They need someone who can handle complex medical care, catheterization, wound care, mobility equipment. I didn't hesitate. Send me the paperwork. Isabella and Gabriel moved in on February 10th, 2024. I learned how to catheterize a toddler, how to check for pressure sores, how to manage 2 wheelchairs in a house that wasn't built for them. My sleep dropped from 6 hours a night to 4.5. I started falling asleep on the couch at random times. The kids would find me there and cover me with blankets. Pastor Brooks stopped by one afternoon and found me passed out at 3 p.m. with all 6 kids playing around me. He sat down and waited until I woke up. Dolores, he said gently, you can't do this alone. I'm not alone, I said. I have them. He looked at the kids, then back at me. I'm going to help, he said. Let me organize some volunteers. Within 2 weeks, he'd assembled a rotation of 23 people from the church. They helped with transportation, childcare, meal prep. Someone came by every day. I cried the first time a volunteer showed up with dinner already cooked. I wasn't used to people helping, but I learned to accept it. By November 2024, my savings account had $340 in it. The mortgage was 15 days late. I'd gotten a notice. Please remit $2,100 immediately. One of the wheelchairs needed an $850 repair. Specialist copays were running $1,200 that month. Medications alone cost $600. I applied for a 4th credit card. Got denied. Insufficient income-to-debt ratio. I sat at the kitchen table one night and tried to figure out how to make it work. The numbers didn't add up. They never did. Hannah came into the kitchen. She was 12 by then. Smart, observant. Are we okay? She asked. I smiled. We're always okay. She didn't look convinced, but she didn't push. The next day, an envelope appeared in my mailbox. No return address. Inside was a check for $5,000, a note attached. For the kids, from someone who sees you. I never found out who sent it, but it covered the mortgage and the wheelchair repair. We survived another month. By the end of 2024, I had 8 kids. Benjamin, 14, Hannah, 12, Elijah, 9, Sophia, 8, Jacob, 7. The twins, Isabella and Gabriel, now 2. And in November, I took in Amelia, 6 years old, born without her left hand. 8 kids, 4 bedrooms, 1 exhausted foster mom. The volunteers kept coming. Church members, neighbors, strangers who'd heard about us somehow. They brought meals, watched kids so I could sleep, drove to medical appointments, helped with homework. I'd never had a support system before. Now I had 23 people who showed up every week. Pastor Brooks told me one Sunday, "You're not doing this alone anymore. You're part of a community now." I didn't know how to respond to that. I'd spent my whole life being alone, but I was learning. By December 2024, I had 8 reasons to wake up every morning, and 0 regrets. The text came on December 22nd. Family dinner Christmas Eve, 6:30, don't be late. It was from my mother. The first message I'd received from her in almost 5 years. I stared at it for a long time. Part of me wanted to delete it, block the number, forget it ever came. But another part, a smaller, stupider part, wondered if maybe this was an olive branch. Maybe they'd seen something about my work with the kids. Maybe they wanted to reconnect. I talked to Pastor Brooks about it. Maybe it's a chance for healing, he said. I wasn't convinced, but I said yes anyway. I bought a bottle of wine for $35, more than I should have spent. But I wrapped it carefully and put it in a gift bag. Maybe this time would be different. I arrived at my parents' house at 6:30 p.m. on Christmas Eve. The house was in Edina, a wealthy suburb, 4,820 Lakeview Terrace. Big colonial with a circular driveway, the kind of house that said, "We've made it." I rang the doorbell. My mother answered. "You made it," she said. Not, "It's good to see you." Not, "We're glad you're here." Just, "You made it." I handed her the wine. She took it without comment. Inside, the dining room table was set for 14 people. My father sat at the head, my mother next to him, Victoria and Preston with their 2 kids, Christopher and Amanda with their daughter, who was visibly pregnant with their second, my Uncle Paul and his wife. And at the far end of the table, seat 14, Grandma Ruth. The seat next to Grandma Ruth was empty. That one was for me. I sat down. No one hugged me. No one asked how I'd been. Christopher nodded once. Victoria gave me a tight smile. Grandma Ruth leaned over. She was 85 with advancing dementia. "You're the only good one, sweetie," she whispered. No one else heard her. Or if they did, they ignored it. Dinner started. Turkey, mashed potatoes. The kind of spread my mother always made for holidays. She served everyone, skipped my plate. I reached across and served myself. Victoria's daughter, 11 years old, stared at me from across the table. "Mom," she said loudly, "why does Aunt Dolores look different?" The table went quiet. Victoria flushed. "Honey, don't—" "No, really," the girl pressed. "Why does she walk funny? And why is her ear like that?" No one answered. My father cleared his throat. Christopher looked down at his plate. I met the girl's eyes. "I was born with some medical conditions," I said evenly. "Club feet, hearing loss. It's just how I am." She frowned. "Oh." The conversation moved on. We were halfway through the meal when my father stood up. He clinked his glass with a fork. Everyone looked at him. "I'd like to make a toast," he said. I felt something cold settle in my stomach. "At Christmas dinner," my father said, smiling, "let's be grateful for family." Though Linda and I joked that Dolores was a failed result of contraception, a few people laughed, nervous, uncertain. I mean, now she's a failure, just like when we tried not to create her. 8 people laughed. 3 looked down. Christopher sat silent. Victoria's face went pale. Grandma Ruth looked confused. My mother was smiling. Christopher leaned back in his chair. At least if contraception fails now, he said, there's better options. He meant abortion. Everyone knew it. More laughter. Louder this time. I set my fork down, slowly, carefully. I looked at my father. He was still smiling. I stood up. Interesting joke, Dad, I said. My voice was calm, steady. Merry Christmas. I walked to the door, grabbed my coat. Grandma Ruth called after me. Sweetie, where are you going? No one answered her. I walked out, got in my car, drove 40 minutes back to my house. I arrived at 8:15 p.m. The babysitter was on the couch with all 8 kids watching a movie. They looked up when I walked in. Sophie, 9 years old, Down syndrome, ran to me. Mama D, she said. Did they love you? I knelt down, hugged her. Not the way you do, baby, I said. That night, I lay in bed and stared at the ceiling. I didn't cry. I was done crying over them. But I made a decision. If they ever came back, they'd find a different version of me. One they didn't recognize. One who'd learned her worth somewhere else. I blocked my parents' numbers on January 2nd, 2025, deleted the few remaining photos I had of them, removed them from every emergency contact form, erased them. Benjamin noticed. Are we enough for you? He asked one morning at breakfast. I looked at him, then at Hannah, Elijah, Sophia, Jacob, the twins, Amelia. You're everything, I said. He nodded, went back to his cereal. 2 weeks later, I did something I'd never done before. I went to therapy. The session cost $180. I paid out of pocket, didn't have insurance that covered it. The therapist, a woman in her 50s with kind eyes, listened to everything. The chart, the Christmas card, the dinner, the text. When I finished, she leaned forward. Have you considered, she said carefully, that their rejection freed you? I stared at her. You've built an entire life, she continued. A family, a purpose. You did that without them. Maybe you needed to be cut loose to become who you are. I thought about that for a long time. Maybe she was right. In May 2025, Hannah started complaining about back pain. We went to the doctor, got x-rays. The scoliosis had progressed. Her spine had curved from 38 degrees to 52 degrees. Surgical threshold was 50. She needs a specialist, the doctor said. I recommend Dr. Thomas Wright at Midwest Orthopedic. He's one of the best in the region. My father. I sat very still. Who else? I asked. The doctor listed 2 other names. But the wait list is about 8 months. Dr. Wright could see her in 3 weeks. I looked at Hannah. She was 12, in pain. We'll take the wait list, I said. Hannah's curve hurt her every day. But I couldn't. I just couldn't. On November 8th, 2025, I got an email. Subject, CNN Heroes, 2025. Nomination. I almost deleted it, thought it was spam, but I opened it. Dear Ms. Wright, you have been nominated for CNN Heroes 2025 by Pastor William Brooks. We would like to learn more about your work with medically complex foster children. I read it 3 times. Then I showed the kids. They screamed. All 8 of them. Sophie cried. Benjamin smiled. The first real smile I'd ever seen from him, even though his face couldn't move much. Mama D's famous, Elijah shouted. The interview process took 3 weeks. Camera crews came to the house November 18th through 20th. They filmed everything. Morning routines, therapy sessions, dinner. They asked if they could interview my family. I don't have one, I said, except these 8. The producer paused. What about your parents? Siblings? No contact, I said. By their choice. She made a note, didn't push. But later, I found out. CNN invites family anyway. Standard protocol for human interest stories. They'd sent invitations to my parents, to Victoria, to Christopher. I didn't know that until later, much later. December 15th, 2025, Madison Square Garden, New York City. I arrived at 2 p.m. The producer met me at the stage door. "Hair and makeup is ready," she said. "We'll get you prepped. The show starts at 7. I followed her backstage. Everything was huge: lights, cameras, people rushing everywhere. They sat me in a chair, started on my hair, my makeup. I looked at myself in the mirror. I barely recognized the person staring back. At 5 p.m., the producer came back. "Small heads up," she said. "We invited your family. Standard protocol for stories like yours. They're in the audience." My stomach dropped. "Who?" I asked. "Your parents, your siblings. We gave them seats in row 12. I couldn't breathe. "I didn't approve that," I said. "It's policy," she said gently. "Family stories need family present. It makes better TV." I wanted to leave, walk out, get on a plane back to Minneapolis, but I thought about the 8 kids, about the $100,000 grant, about the other families who might see this and realize their disabled kids weren't broken. I stayed. At 6:45 p.m., they led me to a holding area near the stage. Through a gap in the curtain, I could see the audience. 5,000 people, maybe more. I scanned row 12, seats 8 through 11. My father, my mother, Victoria, Christopher. They were here. My hands started shaking. A production assistant noticed. "You okay?" "Fine," I said. At 7:15 p.m., they called my name. I walked onto the stage. The lights were blinding. I couldn't see anything except Anderson Cooper standing at a podium, smiling. "Please welcome Dolores Wright," he said. The audience applauded. I sat down in the chair across from him. My heart was pounding so hard, I thought the microphone would pick it up. Anderson Cooper leaned forward. He had that look, the one that said he knew this was going to hurt, but he was going to ask anyway. "Dolores," he said, "tell us how this started. How did you end up fostering 8 medically complex children?" I took a breath. "I was born with defects," I said. My voice was steady, controlled. Club feet, hearing loss, learning delays. My parents considered giving me up when I was 6 months old. I found the medical chart when I was 14. The audience went silent. Anderson's expression didn't change, but I saw something flicker in his eyes. "And now," he said softly, "you've devoted your life to children like you." "Children who were told they were mistakes," I said. "Yes." The camera cut away. I knew, I could feel it, that it was showing my parents. I didn't look at them, kept my eyes on Anderson. "What made you decide to become a foster parent?" he asked. "I met a boy named Benjamin," I said. He'd been rejected by 8 families because of his facial paralysis. No one wanted to look at him. I knew what that felt like. Anderson nodded. "And now you have 8 children." "8 miracles," I said. Anderson smiled. "Well, Dolores, we have a surprise for you." I tensed. I hate surprises. The curtain behind me opened. I turned around. All 8 kids walked onto the stage. Benjamin, Hannah, Elijah, Sophia, Jacob, Isabella, Gabriel, Amelia. They ran to me. I stood up. They piled into my arms. I couldn't breathe, couldn't think, just held them. Elijah, 9 years old, Down syndrome, grabbed the microphone. "Mommy Dolores says we're not mistakes," he said into the mic. His voice was loud, clear. "We're miracles." The audience exploded, standing ovation. It lasted 2 minutes and 15 seconds. I know because I counted. I needed something to focus on besides the tears running down my face. I looked at the kids, all 8 of them, my family. Then I looked at row 12. My mother was crying. My father's face was frozen. Victoria was standing, clapping, tears streaming down her face. Christopher sat motionless. I looked away. Anderson waited for the applause to die down. "Dolores Wright," he said, holding an envelope. "On behalf of CNN, It is my honor to present you with a grant of $100,000 to continue your work. He handed me the envelope. The audience cheered again. I took the microphone. I looked out at 5,000 people, at cameras broadcasting to millions, and I said the thing I'd been holding inside for 31 years. This money will go to medical trust funds for my 8 children, I said. The ones who were called broken, just like I was once called defective. The camera zoomed in on my father. His expression was destroyed. I kept talking. They're not broken. They never were. They're miracles. Every single one. The audience stood again, longer this time. I looked at my kids. They were crying, smiling, whole. I looked at my parents one more time. Then I walked off the stage. I didn't stop to talk to them. Didn't acknowledge them. I had 8 kids to get back to the hotel. I woke up at 6:30 a.m. on December 16th to 1,247 Instagram messages. The show had aired at 8 p.m. the night before. By morning, the clip of Elijah saying "We're miracles" had 4.3 million views. My phone wouldn't stop buzzing. Pastor Brooks called at 6:45. "Dolores," he said, "the church phone hasn't stopped ringing since last night. People want to donate. Volunteer. The voicemail is full." I sat up in bed. Hannah was asleep next to me. We'd shared a hotel room, all 9 of us crammed into 2 rooms, because that's what we could afford, even with CNN covering flights. "How many calls?" I asked. "I stopped counting at 200, he said. I hung up. Opened my email. 850 new messages. I scrolled through them. Most were from strangers, parents of disabled kids, people who'd been called defects themselves, therapists, teachers, donors. One subject line caught my eye. From another mistake who made it out. I opened it. "Dear Dolores, I was born with spina bifida. My parents tried to institutionalize me at age 2. I'm 43 now. I have a PhD. I'm married. I have 2 kids. Thank you for showing the world that we're not broken. Enclosed is a donation. Use it however you need. Dr. Sarah Mitchell." Attached was a receipt for $50,000. I read it 3 times. Then I cried. By December 17th, the story had reached Minneapolis. Local news picked it up. Then national outlets. My father's hospital started receiving emails. Hundreds of them. A patient leaked one to the local paper. How can I trust a surgeon who called his own disabled daughter defective? Does the Hippocratic Oath mean nothing to him? The hospital board called an emergency meeting for December 19th. On December 18th, 35 people showed up outside Midwest Orthopedic Clinic with signs. "Hippocratic Oath, not equal to hypocrisy. Dr. Wright, heal thyself. Dolores Wright is a hero, her father is not." The protest made the 6 p.m. news. I watched it from my living room with all 8 kids. Benjamin looked at me. "Is that your dad?" "Yeah," I said. "He looks sad," Benjamin observed. I didn't respond. The news anchor said, "Dr. Thomas Wright could not be reached for comment." I turned off the TV. Victoria texted me at 11:30 p.m. on December 20th. "Can we talk? Not about them, about me." I stared at the message for 10 minutes. Then I replied, "Coffee, tomorrow, 10 a.m. Caribou on Lake Street." She sent back, "I'll be there." I showed up at 9:55. She was already sitting at a corner table. She looked like she hadn't slept. I sat down, didn't order anything. "Say what you need to say," I told her. She broke. "I've spent 12 years," she said, voice shaking, "helping parents screen out defects like you and your kids. I do genetic counseling, pre-implantation testing. I help people make sure their babies don't have issues." She looked at me. Her eyes were red. "I watched you on that stage," she continued, "and I realized I've been helping people abort kids like Elijah, like Sophia, like Hannah, like you." She started crying. "I don't know who I am anymore," she whispered. I didn't comfort her, just watched. I submitted my resignation yesterday, she said. Effective January 15th. I can't do it anymore. What will you do? I asked. I don't know yet, she said. But I want to help. Not for mom and dad. For me. Can I volunteer? With your kids? I studied her face. Looked for manipulation. Didn't find any. Just guilt, shame, grief. Thursdays, I said finally. 4 to 6 p.m. You help with homework and dinner. You don't get to be their aunt. You're just Victoria, a volunteer. If the kids like you, maybe that changes. But not yet. She nodded. Thank you. I stood up. Don't thank me. Show up. Consistently. Then we'll see. I left. She started volunteering on January 8th, 2026. Christopher didn't call, didn't text. On December 22nd, he posted on LinkedIn, "Family is complicated, values matter, grateful for the people who show us what integrity looks like." Generic, vague, no mention of me. I screenshot it, added it to my receipts folder. A mutual friend texted me later. Christopher told me privately he's ashamed but doesn't know how to fix it. I didn't respond. If he wanted to fix it, he knew where I lived. On December 16th, someone I'd never met launched a GoFundMe. Support Dolores Wright's 8 Miracles. I didn't know about it until December 19th. Pastor Brooks showed me. $215,000 raised in 3 days. By December 24th, $680,000. 12,400 donors. Most gave $25 or $50. Some gave thousands. The top donor was anonymous. $50,000. The note said, "From another defective child who made it out. Thank you." The same person who'd emailed me. I sat at my kitchen table and cried for 20 minutes straight. The kids thought something was wrong. Hannah hugged me. "We're okay, Mama D," she said. "We're okay." I nodded. "I know, baby. These are good tears." December 24th, 2025, 5:30 p.m. Christmas Eve. Exactly 1 year after the dinner. The doorbell rang. I was in the kitchen with all 8 kids. We were making cookies, flour everywhere, music playing. I opened the door. My father and mother stood on my porch. My mother's face was blotchy from crying. My father looked like he'd aged 10 years in 10 days. "Dolores," my father said. His voice was hoarse. "We need to talk. It's about Hannah." I looked at them for a long moment. Then I said, "Not today." I closed the door. They knocked again. I didn't answer. They knocked a third time. Benjamin came into the hallway. "Who is it?" "No one important," I said. We went back to making cookies. I let them in on December 25th at 10 a.m. The kids were at Pastor Brooks's house. I'd arranged it the night before. I didn't want them to see this. My parents sat on the couch. They looked around. Photos everywhere. All 8 kids. School pictures. Candid shots. Art projects on the fridge. A wall calendar with medical appointments color-coded. No photos of them. No photos of Victoria or Christopher. My mother's eyes landed on the coffee table. There was a folder sitting there, labeled Receipts. I'd left it there on purpose. "Coffee?" I asked. They shook their heads. I sat in the armchair across from them. Didn't offer pleasantries. "You said this was about Hannah," I said. My father cleared his throat. "We saw the broadcast. We had no idea you felt—" "Stop," I said. He stopped. I leaned forward. "You don't get to rewrite this," I said. "You know exactly how I felt. You've known since I was 6 months old." My mother started to cry. I didn't react. "We want to make this right," my father said. "Hannah needs spinal surgery. I'm one of the few surgeons in the Midwest who can do it. I want to help. No charge." There it was. "Convenient timing," I said. "It's not about PR," he insisted. "She's my granddaughter." First time he'd ever called her that. I opened the folder. I pulled out the first document, the medical chart from 1994. Parents considering relinquishment due to financial/emotional burden of multiple congenital anomalies, I read aloud. Referred to social services. March 15th, 1994, 6 months old. I showed it to them. My father looked away. I pulled out the second receipt, a screenshot of a text message. You're choosing broken strangers over your own blood. Don't expect us at your funeral. I looked at my mother. You sent that at 11:47 p.m. on March 12th, 2020. She was sobbing now. I pulled out the third receipt, a Christmas card. Our beautiful family, 3 generations of excellence. I held it up. December 2019. I'm not in this photo. I asked to be included. You said you'd already done the shoot. I set them all on the coffee table. You documented your rejection, I said. So did I. My father finally spoke. We were wrong. We know that now. Do you? I asked. Or did 2 million people watching me on TV make you realize it? Silence. I can do Hannah's surgery, my father said quietly. Please let me help my granddaughter. Hannah needs spinal fusion, I said. Scoliosis at 52 degrees. You're one of 5 surgeons in the Midwest qualified to do it. Yes, I know. I leaned back. But this isn't about Hannah, is it? I said. This is about your reputation, your legacy, the hospital board, the protesters outside your clinic. My father's jaw tightened. You want to fix this, I continued, by fixing her, publicly, so everyone sees. Dr. Wright isn't a monster. Look, he's helping his disabled granddaughter. PR gold. That's not, he started. Isn't it? I cut him off. My mother looked up. If we agree to whatever you want, can we see the kids? I almost laughed. That's not up to me, I said. It's up to them. They're people, not props for your redemption arc. I stood up, walked to the window. If you want to be part of their lives, I said slowly, here's what happens. I turned to face them. 1. You establish a $500,000 endowment fund at Children's Minnesota. Not a trust for just my 8 kids, a fund for any disabled foster child who needs surgery, ongoing, permanent. My father opened his mouth. I held up a hand. 2. You both enroll in a 12-month restorative justice program facilitated by disability advocates. You'll listen to families, to disabled adults. You'll sit in circles and hear what you've done, what people like you have done. My mother was shaking her head, but I kept going. 3. You mentor 3 young orthopedic surgeons per year in pro bono disability cases. You share your skills. You teach them to see these kids as worth saving. I paused. 4. Hannah gets to choose. She's 12 years old. If she doesn't want you to do the surgery, you accept that. If she does, you do it quietly. No media. No interviews, no redemption tour. My father stared at me. $500,000 is less than you spent on Victoria's IVF and Christopher's MBA combined, I finished. He closed his mouth. And if we agree to all of this, my mother whispered, can we see them? That's up to them, I repeated. Not me, not you, them. I pulled out my phone, called Hannah at Pastor Brooks's house, put it on speaker. Mama D? Hannah's voice came through. Hi, baby, I said. Grandpa and Grandma are here. They want to talk to you about your surgery. Pause. Grandpa? She said, uncertain. My father leaned toward the phone. Hi, Hannah. I'm a doctor. I can fix your back, if you want. Another pause. I don't know you, Hannah said. Her voice was small but steady. But Mama D says you can help. I can, my father said. His voice cracked. Okay, Hannah said. I'll say yes, but only if you say sorry. I am sorry, my father said immediately. Not just to Mama D, Hannah interrupted. To all of us. Because we're all miracles. Right, Mama D? My throat tightened. That's right, baby. Say sorry to all of us, Hannah said again. My father looked at me, then at the phone. I'm sorry, he whispered. To all of you. I'm so sorry. He broke down, completely, sobbing like I'd never seen him cry. My mother reached for him. He pulled away. Hannah was quiet for a moment. Then she said, "Okay, thank you." I ended the call. My father sat on my couch crying into his hands. My mother looked at me. What happens now? Now, I said, you wire the $500,000. You enroll in the program. You start the mentorship. And maybe, we see where this goes. I walked to the door, opened it. This conversation is over. They left. On January 3rd, 2026, my bank sent me a notification. $500,000 deposited into Children's Minnesota Foundation account. I called the hospital to verify. It was real. The endowment was officially named the Miracles Not Mistakes Fund, established by Dr. Thomas Wright. I stared at the confirmation email for a long time. An email from my father came through an hour later. It's done. What happens next is up to you. I didn't reply, but I saved the email. I sat down with Hannah that night. The surgery, I said. We have options. Grandpa can do it. Or Dr. Rachel Ortiz at Mayo Clinic. She's a woman. She's incredibly skilled. The wait is shorter now. 6 weeks instead of 8 months. Hannah thought about it. Does Grandpa want to do it because he loves me? She asked. Or because people are mad at him? I didn't lie to her. Probably a little of both, I said. She nodded slowly. I want Dr. Ortiz. Why? I asked. Because she's a woman, Hannah said. And because she didn't call you defective. I hugged her. The surgery was scheduled for February 20th, 2026. Dr. Ortiz, Mayo Clinic, 6 to 8 hours. Hannah asked one more question. Can Grandpa visit me after, if he's nice? If he's nice, I agreed. And only if you want him to. Victoria showed up on January 8th at 4 p.m., exactly on time. She brought coloring books, puzzles, snacks. She sat with Elijah and helped him with math homework, played blocks with the twins, helped me cook dinner. Sophia, 8 years old, Treacher-Collins syndrome, hearing impaired, watched her carefully. At the end of the shift, Sophia asked, "Are you Mama D's sister?" Victoria looked at me. I didn't help her. "I'm trying to be," Victoria said quietly. Sophia considered this. "Okay, you can try." Victoria stayed an extra hour and a half. I didn't comment on it. When she left, she hugged me at the door. "Thank you," she whispered, "for letting me try." I nodded. Didn't hug back yet, but I let her come back the next week. The program started January 10th. Every Saturday morning, community center on Lake Street. 2 facilitators, both disabled adults. One used a wheelchair, one was deaf. My parents sat in a circle with 12 other people, mostly parents of disabled kids, some disabled adults. Week 1, they listened for 90 minutes, didn't speak. A mother talked about her son with Down syndrome, how doctors told her to institutionalize him, how she refused, how he graduated high school. A man in his 40s talked about growing up with cerebral palsy, how his father couldn't look at him, how he became an engineer anyway. My parents sat silent, listening. Week 4. My father spoke. I was taught, he said slowly, that perfection mattered more than people. I taught my kids the same thing. I was wrong. The facilitator asked, "What are you doing to repair the harm?" "I don't know yet," my father admitted, "but I'm trying to learn." It wasn't enough, but it was a start. On January 15th, a letter arrived, handwritten, 3 pages, from Christopher. I almost didn't open it, but I did. Dolores, I don't expect forgiveness. I stayed silent when I should have stood up. Silence is complicity. I see that now. I watched the CNN broadcast with my wife and daughter. When you said defective, my daughter asked what that meant. I couldn't explain it to her without admitting what we'd done to you. I'm in therapy now. It's hard, facing what I participated in, what I allowed. But it's not as hard as what you endured. I'm not asking you to let me back in. I just wanted you to know. I see it now. I see you. And I'm sorry. Christopher. I read it twice. Then I put it in a drawer. I didn't reply. Not yet, but I kept it. On January 20th, I visited Grandma Ruth in her nursing home. She'd been moved there in late December. Dementia had advanced. She didn't recognize most people anymore. But when I walked in, her eyes lit up. "There's my good girl," she said. I sat next to her bed, held her hand. "I always loved you best, you know," she whispered. "You were real. The others were just pretty." I smiled. "Thank you, Grandma." She drifted off. I sat with her for an hour. She passed away peacefully on January 28th. The funeral was February 1st. I brought all 8 kids. We sat in the back, separate from my parents and siblings. After the service, my father approached. "Thank you for coming," he said. I nodded. Didn't say anything else. We left. December 25th, 2026. I hosted Christmas at my house. 25 people, all 8 kids. Pastor Brooks, 12 volunteers from the church, Victoria and her 2 kids, and, after much discussion with the kids, my parents and Christopher. They arrived at 4 p.m., brought gifts, stood awkwardly in the doorway until Elijah ran up and hugged my mother's legs. She looked shocked. Then she knelt down and hugged him back. My father brought a gift for Hannah. A book, Gray's Anatomy, inscribed, "For my granddaughter the miracle." Hannah read it, looked up at him. "Thank you, Grandpa." It was the first time she'd called him that. Dinner was loud, chaotic, beautiful. I sat at the head of the table. My parents sat at the far end, exact reverse of last year. No one made jokes about contraception. No one called anyone defective. We just ate together. It wasn't perfect, but it was progress. By December 2026, the Miracles Not Mistakes Fund had helped 63 children, surgeries, wheelchairs, hearing aids, physical therapy. I got a letter from a parent in November. "My daughter has club feet, like yours. Your fund paid for her surgery. She's walking now. Thank you for showing us she was worth fighting for." The fund had $380,000 remaining, sustainable for at least 5 more years. The hospital foundation asked if we could expand it nationally. I said yes. Victoria joined a nonprofit in March 2026, Disability Inclusive Prenatal Care. She advocated for parents to get full information, not just statistics. To meet disabled adults, to see what life could look like. She was scheduled to give a TED Talk in March 2027. Title: From Screening Out to Stepping Up. She visited every Thursday, had for 11 months now. The kids called her Aunt Vicky now. She'd earned it. She told me once, "I'll never undo what I participated in, but I can do better going forward." I believed her. On December 15th, 2026, exactly 1 year after CNN Heroes, a reporter interviewed me. "Have you forgiven your parents?" she asked. I thought about it. "I'm working on it," I said. "Some wounds heal, some just stop bleeding. Both are progress." The interview wrapped. The 8 kids piled onto me before the camera stopped rolling. The reporter laughed. Elijah grabbed the mic. "Mama D forgave us for being broken." I pulled him close. "You were never broken, baby." The camera caught it all. That night, after everyone left, I sat in the living room. 8 kids asleep upstairs, the house quiet. I thought about the girl I'd been. The one who found the chart at 14, who got excluded from Christmas cards, who was called a failed result of contraception. She'd survived. More than that, she'd built something beautiful. I had a family now, one that chose me, one I chose back. My parents were trying. It was messy, complicated, painful, but they were trying, and I was letting them. On my terms, because that's what healing looks like. Not perfect, not easy, just progress. One day at a time.